Good morning, loves. Welcome back to Cris Rants. Today, I would like to follow up from yesterday's therapy exchange. So, this is the first time I've transitioned from one therapist to another in the same group or in the same program. So I didn't know what to expect. I don't know if originally when I was referred to the program, it was only for a temporary thing, like a program. Every program is different, I've learned, and so you don't really kind of know the ins and outs until you've, been in the situation where you have to know what those ins and outs, those requirements, those time periods are. But they had to transfer me from one therapist to the next. And the therapist I had previously was amazing. She let me know a couple weeks in advance, like, hey, we only have about 3 more sessions before you have to let me know what you want to do. If you want to continue working in the program, let me know. 'Cause she basically put in the suggestion for which of my options, right, she'd think would best fit based on the work that we had already done and what she had knew about me. And I really appreciated that, because from the professional perspective, she knows which of her tools were most beneficial with me, or the ones that she found herself calling upon, the personality traits and character traits that she identified with. She would be able to take those things that are her strengths and match those with others, her other colleagues. Yeah, so that was really nice. And even though it there was some underlying anxiety regarding that, it was still refreshing to know that she wasn't kind of just dropping me like a bad habit, or rotten egg. And so, we were able to talk about those things too during therapy to kind of help me decide what I wanted to do. And so that was I was appreciative to that. So when the time came, I kind of just figured, hey, she's handed me off. I'm not going to hear from her anymore. But she actually reached out the very first week we would miss a session. She's like, hey, just calling you to let you know you do not have a session today. I talked to my supervisor. The transition is going to take about 2 weeks maximum. And I can tell you who's going to call you because she knows how my anxiety is with strangers. I like to be addressed a certain way that lets me know, hey, you're the correct person. And if you've ever been taken advantage of or had your privacy invaded, you can understand how there's certain. It's nice to be able to predetermine the exchange. So it's just like when you're a kid and you're like, you have a secret clubhouse, you have a secret password, even though you might recognize the people, it's like, oh, you don't have the password. Or being on the VIP list, you recognize the name. So knowing someone's name, knowing what number they're calling from, what time they're calling, how they introduce themselves, what information that they use to identify me, it kind of lets me know, oh, okay, there was an exchange made. You were prepared on the best way to handle me, which makes me feel safe, which makes me feel protected, and which makes me feel heard, right? So it's one thing for you to share your concerns, and another thing for somebody to receive it and to take action on it. And so all of those things were done. The previous therapist told me, hey, this is the deadline for you to have somebody. And this should be the time, even though I'm not your counselor anymore, this is the way that you can get in contact. So that, which lets me know what the professional boundaries are, in cases like this, because I feel like, oh, somebody's been handing me off to somebody else. You're no longer, an option for communicating with. And I'm happy she was able to explain to me what's supposed to go on. Now, I don't know how every agency works, every program works, but this is what happened for me. And I appreciate that. The week prior, a couple days prior to when I was expecting to resume my session, got a phone call from the new therapist. She just briefly introduced herself and verified, hey, this is what this was communicated to me. Is that correct? Are you okay with that? And so it was very to the point. like concise, but not rude. It was very warm and friendly, and it didn't have that undertone of like business. It was very conversation, like smooth, easy conversation, but not like small talk. And it was really comfortable, and that was a really great first point of contact to have. It was like, hi, this is my name. Um, and I just wanted to check to make sure that the information here that I have is correct. Let me know if you're still interested in getting services and if you were okay with this, that, or the other kind of thing. And no obligation to know what time is good for you. Not locking me into anything and really giving me control to be able to say yes or no, this works for me, what I desire from this. So it was cool. So even though the entire process was scary and not knowing what to expect was scary, the anxiety and the fear came in from just the unknown. So after after I finished the video yesterday, I had to go take care of some other business, and that other business was very nerve-wracking and anxiety-stricken. Another unknown territory. Yeah, very uncomfortable because it's unknown, not knowing what I should do, how things are going, how to do things. Yeah, and being afraid of making a mistake and whatever the consequences of that mistake may be. So leaving from that meeting, I was having issues with my car. And everybody that I know to reach out to kind of narrow in and to kind of confirm what it is, I'll self-diagnose and do my own kind of diagnostics for what was going on. And I'll get a plan. But just to make sure that I'm not tunnel vision, because I'm only looking at the things and recognizing the things that my level of expertise covers. I made sure I reached out to some people that I trusted. So I was able to get my car to the nearest like auto supply place so I could get the things that I think I needed. But unfortunately, one of the people that I called just really drove my nerves up the wall. And I gave this person fair warning, like, hey, I'm already on edge. I really only called for X, Y, and Z. It's very important to me, that when I call people that are important to me, that know that they're important to me and they know how I operate, if I'm saying, hey, this is a matter of fact kind of conversation where I'm going to ask you boom, 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 and I want the answers boom, 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 boom. So if I ask, hey, what color is the sky? What time are you getting off of work? What do you want? Whatever, just black and white type things, not, oh, in your professional opinion. No, hey, can you give me information for this? Can you give me a number on this? Can you give me a location for this? Yes, you can, and do it. No, you can't. Or, hey, give me a second, let me research. It's kind of the responses I was looking for, but it kind of turned into a whole bunch of conversation that I wasn't interested in. I apologize for calling early, and everyone knows, hey, if you sound like you're asleep, oh, no. I won't even tell you what's going on, because my goal is not to burden you. My goal is to reach out because I need help, but not to put my needs before someone else's, because I can't force you to care more about what's going on with me. And I don't have any idea what's going on with you. So if you sound like you're asleep, I'm like, oh, no, I didn't call for I didn't call for anything. It's not a big deal. Call me when you wake up, right? Because the goal is not to ruin your day. Next to that, it is pretty important that, sorry about that. My social anxiety kind of kicked in because somebody had pulled up right next to me, which is so weird, because at this lot that I like to pull up to so I can have my rant, there is a plethora of spaces. So when somebody pulls right next to you, and you don't know them, it's like, oh, okay. And I'm using my front-facing camera, right? So, and I'm always segueing. You guys just forgive me, hence the rant, why I call this a rant, because I might intend for it to go somewhere, but it might not ever land there. I'm using my front-facing camera to rant. Only because it's a whole lot easier. And that's one of the reasons why you see me looking off, because I don't really need to see myself. Don't really care to see myself. because I don't want that to be my attention, to be like, oh yeah, you know, that's just this is what I look like. So this is what you get. But when somebody pulls right next to me, when there's so many other spaces, it kind of got me whatever. So I ended the video. Hopefully I'll be able to successfully splice this together with the first part, because instead of pausing it, which is what I intended on doing, I completely stopped it. My bad. I don't edit these videos. I really just have my rant and post it, because I don't want to edit myself. I don't want to mute myself. I don't want to go back and second guess. I said what I said, and I've prefaced this as a rant, so you know it's not scripted. And it really is like whatever's on my mind, on my heart, or what happens in the moment. Like this car parking right next to me when there are, and I'm not even near the entrance. I'm nowhere near the entrance. And I'm in the part of the parking lot where it's the way that they did the lines are so, it makes no sense. It's so hard to get out of certain spaces, but because my car is small and I come, and I pull up here a lot, it's easy for me to know which spaces I can get in and out of quickly. But I don't necessarily need to be close to the door or the ramp or anything, or the entrance. So anyways, I digress. So anxiety because, I was changing over to a new therapist, after not being in therapy for 2 weeks. And it didn't have anything in place to substitute for it. Had to take care of some, like, not business matters. It's like kind of legal. It's real. It's real official, and it's a whole lot of stuff. And I've never navigated that process before. So that was very intimidating and scary. And even if you navigate it successfully, you still wonder what's been done, because I've gotten my paperwork sent back to me at least 2 different times. And I'm still trying to process it. So it's still irritating. It's still anxiety stricken. It still builds anxiety, excuse me. And then for my car to be giving me a hard time, and for the people who normally come through with the information. Like, when I say come through, I don't mean, oh, we're going to take care of it. It's, oh, this answers your question. And even though you didn't ask it, can I put in these 2 cents? Like, that's it. Like, I don't need you to solve my problem. I just wanted some input, just to see, had I considered all things based on my expertise with cars. Let me ask you based on your expertise for cars, and ask you to ask somebody else based on that. Just word of mouth, like, hey, this is what's going on. See what you can find out, to a couple people that I trust, to ask for help for. And so I was able to take care of some stuff. It's so crazy because when I was in the auto supply store, like, one of the workers was like, hey, do you need any help? And I had my earpieces on, and you can tell I was on the phone. I wasn't like loud. There was nobody else, and it might have been 2 other customers when I first got in there, but I don't remember there being any customers by the time he came. And I thought he was just, hey, let me go ahead and ask if if she's fine or whatever. And I was like, no. I was like, I know what I need. I'm kind of just shopping right now because I'm thinking. Like, I know what I came in here for. But while I'm in here, it's almost like a Target run for me. I'll go in here for the things that I need, but I am going to stroll down some aisles for stuff I don't need. And that's kind of how it is when I go to an auto supply store. And so I was like, okay, I'm thinking about which brand of this I want to get, which level performance I want for this, that, or the other. So I'm looking at other things just to see, oh, okay, these are other things that I could be using, or other things that I could be doing. And that was cool. So after I did that, I'm trying to hold on, guys. Like, this lady just came back to her car, and okay, I'm just gonna not care. I'm just gonna not care for the sake of getting this stuff off my chest so I can go about my day. So after the fact, the guy tells me, oh, we can't just have anybody, we can't just have people walking around with a big bag. And I'm like, did I accidentally bring multiple bags in here? I'm pretty sure I didn't. When I say my purse is like, it's like an open tote kind of thing. I mean, maybe you can see. Right? But it was literally like filled to like the top. Especially like when it's on my body. Like, so there's nowhere to kind of stick anything. Mind you, it's an auto supply store, so there's nothing like small there. Maybe keychains if they have those still. And so I'm like, this isn't a bag. This is like my purse. I mean, you want to check it? Like, I can leave it at the door if that's what you need to do, put it under the counter or whatever until it's time for me to purchase. But it's my purse. He's like, no, it's fine. I said, you are more than free. You're more than welcome to search my purse even when I leave, right? Because my thing is, I don't have anything to hide, and that's one of the most absurd things I've heard in the auto supply store. I've heard that in certain clothing stores, but clothing is, it's very flexible, so you can ball it up and stick it anywhere. Yeah, and and it's not usually with my purse. It's usually with like, I have other shopping bags with me or grocery bags or whatever. You'll check those items and you can keep your purse or whatever. Anyways, I digress. That was irritating. So the person on the phone was, I'm like, did you hear that? They really said that I can't have my purse? So this is ridiculous. There's no way. Like, I left all my other bags, my work bag, my other bags that I take around with me that has the stuff that won't fit in my purse that I feel like I need to carry around like my purse. Like, when I say once the ball got rolling yesterday, it just kept rolling. You know, therapist, started the conversation with the therapist, right? And I couldn't lie about being overwhelmed. So when she was like, "Oh, how are you doing?" I'm like, it's kind of rough. Like, I've been productive, and it started off an organic conversation, right? I can tell what types of questions she would ask. And from that, I could gauge. There wasn't much of an exchange between my previous therapist and the one that I got handed off to, which made me really nervous, right? Because one of the biggest concerns that I've had on this journey through therapy is having to recount some of the most traumatic situations of my life. Not because, not because I'm sick of them per se, um, but because I want to stop giving so much power to those incidences. I want to be able to say, hey, I have anxiety issues, or hey, I struggle with depression, or hey, I struggle with self-esteem, or whatever the case may be, right? I've been diagnosed with XYZ itis, right? And go from there, right? That tell me a little about your childhood, tell me about what it was like growing up. Those are great after the first 3 therapists. After 10, 15, I feel like I'm telling a story that I'm reading with dry emotion, right? Because I'm really just trying to, it's like I want to regurgitate the same information that I've shared with everybody else. But I don't want to give it the same emotion because I'm tired of crying over that. I'm tired of being frustrated over that. I'm tired of being afraid of that. Like, I'm tired of how those things made me feel then and how those things make me feel now, right? So imagine if you've been in a accident, like a car accident, and you broke your leg, or you had some kind of physical trauma that you had to go to rehab, right? You had to go to physical therapy for, right? You do so much work, right? You do the surgery, you go to the doctor, you do the medical stuff, and once the stuff is healed at a scar level, then you start to rebuild the muscle, or you start to regain your flexibility or mobility, whatever the case may be, right? Every week there's progress, or there's a goal right in hand. That's kind of how I see my process. Unfortunately, like I talked about in the video yesterday, it's not necessarily true. The growth and the healing is not linear. You kind of jump all over the place because it's so dynamic, and I get that. But when it comes to having to recount the trauma, that's where I get the issues. Because if let's say my trauma is because my dog died, right? My dog died, and my parents lied about it. And he was my best friend in the whole wide world, and I'll never love another dog like my doggy, right? I feel like if I've gotten to the point where I know that it is holding me back, or it is I need to overcome some things. I have to work through that in order to see some breakthrough. I don't want to keep reliving him dying or the deception that my parents, the deception that happened because of it. And so that's kind of how I feel, having to relive because there's a new person who's taking me on, right? I've been handed over to another person. Like, I it's not fun. That's why I said yesterday, therapy sucks. Um, but it's so beneficial and it's so worth all of the work. Um, And so that's what I was dreading with the conversation. And so I'm kind of happy that she didn't, but it's kind of like, hey, you have egg on your face, because she wouldn't have to kind of read so much into everything that you're saying right now if you would have just recounted that story. So, she would ask different probing questions along the way, and she's like, based on what you're telling me, this is what. And I appreciate that. I appreciate that she's willing to gain knowledge about me and my situation and where I am, to kind of, check in for my diagnosis. I appreciate that she was really working. She really created an organic situation, a safe space. I really felt that she was understanding what I was trying to communicate. And I feel like she's gotten an accurate picture so far of who I am based on the conversations that we had. I know I'm a very dynamic individual, with a lot of ins and outs. But as far as that part is concerned, based on the stuff that I shared with her yesterday, I really think she got a pretty good gauge on who I am based on those specific conversation pieces. However, I was not. Okay, so as she's learning me, I'm learning her, and I'm learning her counseling style, her therapy style, her listening style, her communication style, right? So one thing that she told me was going to happen was something I'm not a fan of. But because I'm very committed to this journey of mine, because I don't like it doesn't mean it's not good for me. I do have a say so in how I'm handled, but while she's taking stock in who I am and learning about me, I'm doing so much so because this is a relationship that we're building where she can use her expertise, and the more intimate that we get, the better she can navigate the ins and outs of who I am, what I'm going through. Um so that's an opportunity of growth for me, to not shut her out because I don't like her way of communicating. So one of the things that she said was that I'm going to call you out when I see that you're trying to talk bad about yourself, right? Um, I just find it corny in essence. But in reality, she hasn't actually done it. So I can't really pass judgment on how she described what she's going to do to kind of bring my attention to how I talk about myself and how I refer to myself and how I judge myself, right? And the lack of compassion that I have for myself. I'm not looking forward to it, but it really was like, ugh. So definitely growth on my part to allow people to be themselves, especially when their intention is obviously to help me and to grow me. The the bomb that was dropped in that conversation is my diagnosis, my preliminary diagnosis. Originally coming off of one of those really big traumatic events, I was given a diagnosis. And given how I was feeling and the way that that particular therapist explained it, I was like, I totally get that. I totally get that, right? And then when I got transferred to two different ones, it was something different. And I was like, that's fine. Mind you, I gave them the same information, backstory. And so for me not to give a backstory and kind of just be talking about who I am, it was really, really disheartening to me. Because even though I know that this healing journey is not linear, I still want to be able to track my progress, right? I still want to know that I can walk and chew gum. Well, not even walk and chew gum, just walk. And every time a trigger, I expect, like I feel a trigger, I'm sidelined by a trigger, I'm ambushed by a trigger, I feel like such a failure. I feel like all the work that I've been doing is for naught, right? And it is so draining because certain triggers can really just rip my whole day to shreds, can rip my whole week to shreds. And so to get the same diagnosis from years ago didn't feel good. It really just made me feel like all the work that I had thought I'd been doing is thrown out the window. I know that's not true, but that's what made me feel like. And it ruined the rest of my day. Like, I couldn't eat for hours. And today I woke up wanting to do well, wanting to put a few things on my to-do list and just be like, hey, you can do this. You're going to do this. I've never been one who asks for titles. I really don't like them. I don't like the boxes. I don't like how rigid they are. There's some things in life I want to be black and white, and some things that don't. Some things I don't. And I'm really struggling with 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 that just piece. And I played it off well. When she said it, she was kind of like excited, like, oh, I kind of get this. This is what I see for you. And everything she said, I identify with. I really did. But it didn't take away from the fact that I've been working so hard. Like, I can see where things have gotten better, right? But it sucks because I kind of want my cheerleader to, I kind of want my therapist to be my cheerleader. But I don't want to relive the past and say this is how I used to be just for the sake for her to be able to say hey. And I don't want to have to use past successes in place for things that I can be doing now. So it's bittersweet because I've changed hands between so many different professionals and so many different programs that they can't track it from beginning to end. Right? I can't look. It's not like you go from grade to grade and you could be like, oh, I learned this in first grade. I learned this in second grade. Or even a physical when you go to the doctor. Hey, I was this tall and now I'm this tall. It's so hard to track my progress because I've gone through so many different hands. And so I'm still struggling with that. I know it's something small, but I feel how I feel. And it's hard to swallow. I don't want to be that person with that diagnosis. Um, there's no cure. There's like it doesn't just go away. I feel like it's something I'm going to struggle with for the rest of my life. But the severity of its impact will be the goal is to make it minimal. So that's the goal. No, that's not the goal. The goal is to trust God. The goal is to remember that He has plans for me to prosper me, never to harm me, for hope and for a future. To trust that as He orders my steps through this process, that nothing is final without His say. To remember that He loves me and that every new day is a gift and that He wants the best for me. And that because His thoughts are not my thoughts and His ways are not my ways, the greatest thing that I can think for myself, that God thinks greater things of me and for me. So have a great day. Know that you are loved. You are amazing. You are appreciated.